Beirut, Lebanon, 1979. A wedding party saturates the balmy Mediterranean night with song and joy. Strands of white bulbs draped across a coastal villa's open courtyard cast light over scores of visitors swaying, sipping champagne, and congratulating the newlyweds. The fragrance of jasmine mingles with the aroma of roasted lamb in the atmosphere. Young ones dart playfully around tables, overflowing with classic Lebanese confections. Elderly gentlemen puff on water pipes while conversing about political matters in low voices. Ladies dressed in refined gowns exchange whispers regarding love affairs and tensions within Beirut's community of Palestinian exiles. Within the gathering, nobody takes note of the photographers weaving through the festivities, snapping informal shots with a costly Nikon. Nobody questions the catering crew that showed up early that same afternoon, carrying covered platters and crates of French wine. Nobody gives much thought to the youthful pair who came from Paris, presenting themselves as faraway relations of the groom's relatives, enthusiastic to join the celebration despite never having encountered the bride. What those attending the wedding ceremony fail to realize is that no actual wedding exists. The bride, along with the groom, are intelligence agents from Mossad. The photographer is a commando from Sayeret Matkal, with expertise in confined space fighting. The serving staff are operatives belonging to Caesarea, the elite killing squad within Mossad, and the complete celebration, planned with meticulous care across 8 months, serves one singular aim: to assassinate Ali Hassan Salameh, the individual whom Israeli intelligence deems accountable for the Munich Olympics attack and roughly a dozen additional operations that resulted in Israeli citizen and soldier casualties. This represents the account of Operation Spring of Youth's overlooked sequel, a venture so daring that even among Mossad's secret files, seasoned professionals discuss it with combined feelings of accomplishment and amazement. It demonstrates how spy agencies convert routine social occasions into refined killing grounds, how agents inhabit fabricated lives with such persuasiveness that their marks join them in festivities mere moments prior to death, and how the hidden apparatus of political murder can wear the disguise of humanity's most shared rituals, a wedding festivity. Comprehending the reasoning behind Mossad's orchestration of a complete fabricated wedding celebration to eliminate a single individual demands comprehending who Ali Hassan Salameh represented and the reasons Israeli intelligence judged his termination worthy of exceptional operational hazards and assets. Salame came into the world in 1,940 inches, Kula, a settlement close to Jaffa in what existed then as British Mandate Palestine. His male parent, Hassan Salameh, stood as a mythical personality within Palestinian opposition movements, a field commander throughout the 1936 through 1939 Arab uprising against British authority and Jewish migration. Hassan battled beside the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem and built a standing for strategic genius and complete courage under fire. During the outbreak of the 1948 Arab-Israeli conflict, Hassan commanded Palestinian irregular troops against Jewish communities and emerging Israeli armed forces. He met his end in June 1948 amid combat close to Ras Al Ain, achieving martyrdom as someone whose identity was spoken of across generations as a model of Palestinian defiance and ultimate sacrifice. Ali matured beneath that inheritance, brought up by his mother within refugee settlements in Lebanon, following the household's escape from Palestine after the Israeli triumph in 1948. The forced removal, the hardship of settlement existence, and the perpetual reference to his father's brave actions molded Ali's sense of self from youth. Expectations placed upon him involved following his father's course to transform into a warrior who would repay Palestinian defeats and advance the campaign for restoration to territories his relatives had forfeited. Yet, Ali wasn't merely a creation of suffering and political doctrine. He demonstrated mental capacity, magnetism, and administrative talents that separated him from the thousands of additional young Palestinian males who enlisted in armed groups throughout the 1962. He pursued higher education in Cairo, learning engineering while absorbing Egyptian nationalism during Nasser's Pan-Arab movement. He commanded fluent Arabic, English, plus French, transitioned smoothly between Palestinian refugee settlements and upper-class Arab social environments, and exhibited an aptitude for long-range planning that attracted the notice of Fatah's command structure. Toward the conclusion of the 1,960 seconds, Yasser Arafat had directly brought Salame into Force 17, a select protection and missions division tasked with safeguarding PLO command and executing prominent strikes against Israeli plus Western objectives. Salame's advancement within Palestinian armed structures proved rapid. Around 1,970, he directed Force 17's mission branch and had positioned himself as the chief connection between the PLO and European radical groups, ready to supply safe locations, armaments, and support infrastructure for missions against Israeli objectives overseas. He possessed adequate refinement to maneuver through European capital cities, adequate brutality to authorize killings, and adequate self-control to uphold operational concealment in circumstances where Israeli intelligence had infiltrated virtually every Palestinian entity. Israeli intelligence initially designated Salame as a high-priority objective in 1971 when captured transmissions suggested his participation in organizing strikes against El Al airplanes and Israeli diplomatic installations across Europe. Yet he transformed into Mossad's #1 wanted individual following September 5, 1972, when Black September agents invaded the Israeli Olympic delegation's lodging in Munich, seizing 11 competitors and trainers as captives. The situation concluded with all 11 Israelis deceased, terminated either throughout the opening assault or when German authorities tried a catastrophic extraction mission at Fürstenfeldbruck Air Base. The Munich attack left Israel deeply scarred. The pictures of disguised militants on the apartment terrace of the Olympic compound, the failed German extraction effort transmitted in real time on television broadcasts, and the resulting fatalities of Israeli competitors at Palestinian militant hands produced nationwide fury and calls for payback. Prime Minister Golda Meir greenlit Operation Wrath of God, an organized effort to track down and terminate everyone connected with organizing and carrying out the Munich strike. Mossad assembled a roster of objectives, secured pictures and background information, and sent killing squads throughout Europe and the Middle East. Ali Hassan Salameh's identity sat at the peak of that roster. Israeli intelligence concluded, drawing from captured transmissions and interrogations of detained agents, that Salame had served as the mission coordinator who gave approval for the Munich strike, supplied funding plus support infrastructure, and worked alongside Black September agents who executed the assault. Whether this evaluation proved completely correct continues to spark discussion among scholars. Certain evidence indicates Salame's involvement proved more tangential, that he possessed awareness regarding the mission, yet didn't directly oversee it. However, Mossad's determination in 1972 remained absolute. Salame carried accountability for Munich, and he would face pursuit until eliminated. The initial killing effort occurred in July 1973 within the Norwegian community of Lillehammer. Mossad agents had followed what they assumed was Salame to a peaceful residential district. During the night of July 21st, a strike squad shadowed a male departing a movie theater with his expectant spouse. They fired upon him repeatedly before her, terminating him immediately. Subsequently, they escaped, assured they had removed Israel's most pursued militant. They had terminated an innocent person. The casualty proved to be Ahmed Bouchiki, a Moroccan server employed at a neighborhood eatery who maintained zero association with the PLO or militant activities. The killing represented a disastrous intelligence breakdown stemming from hurried observation, insufficient identity confirmation, and demands from political command requiring outcomes. Norwegian authorities detained 6 Mossad agents within several days. 5 received convictions and imprisonment, although they completed comparatively brief sentences prior to being discreetly freed. The controversy harmed Israel's connection with Norway, plus additional European states, revealed Mossad mission techniques, and compelled a brief halt of killing missions across Europe. For Salame, Lillehammer served as a cautionary signal. He grasped that Mossad would persist in pursuing him, that mission concealment would represent the distinction between survival and death, and that he could never diminish his watchfulness. He relocated regularly among Beirut, Damascus, and European metropolitan areas, modified his physical appearance consistently, employed numerous false names and counterfeit travel documents, and positioned himself among protection personnel selected from Force 17's most reliable agents. He prevented predictable behaviors, never remaining at identical sites beyond several evenings, and transmitted messages via intermediaries instead of straight to contacts who could be monitored. Yet Salameh additionally possessed a vulnerability that Israeli intelligence would ultimately manipulate: his attraction to opulence and societal standing. Regardless of the requirement of existing covertly, he appreciated Beirut's refined evening culture, showed up at gatherings in stylish districts, and developed connections with Lebanese upper classes who respected his refinement and his household's mythical position in Palestinian chronicles. He wed Georgina Rizk, a past Miss Universe from Lebanon, during a broadly announced ritual that appeared careless for an individual supposedly existing in concealment. The marriage declaration surfaced in Lebanese publications with pictures of the pair, supplying Israeli intelligence with current photographs and validation of Salameh's whereabouts. The marriage to Georgina exposed something Israeli evaluators discovered operationally meaningful: Salameh's requirement for communal recognition and societal position occasionally superseded protection deliberations. He desired to appear as beyond a militant existing in obscurity. He sought acknowledgement as a refined Palestinian commander who circulated in select groups, who married beauty title holders, and who symbolized Palestinian nationalism's goals for global validity and honor. That requirement for prominence, for preserving societal relationships and showing up at occasions where significant individuals would observe him, generated weak points that Mossad strategists started investigating for mission advantage. Around 1978, Mossad had reconstructed its killing abilities following the Lillehammer catastrophe. Fresh mission guidelines stressed careful observation, diverse source identity confirmation, and comprehensive preparation that gave precedence to confidence instead of rapidity. The organization had discovered that accelerating missions generated disastrous breakdowns that compromised Israel's global reputation and jeopardized subsequent ventures. The following effort on Salameh's existence would proceed solely when circumstances permitted complete confidence of objective recognition and an approach that guaranteed achievement without revealing agents to detention. Observation squads functioning in Beirut determined Salameh's patterns, observing his regular presence at societal occasions in the metropolitan area's Christian districts, where Palestinians with resources and associations kept residences and estates. He journeyed with protection personnel, yet diminished his caution at gatherings organized by individuals he relied upon, assuming that societal environments among acquaintances provided security via fellowship instead of seclusion. Israeli evaluators recognized this as the mission weak point they could manipulate. Salameh would show up at occasions where he experienced protection, where armed protection personnel would appear inappropriate, and where a strike could happen prior to his recognition of the danger. The strategy surfaced throughout preparation meetings in late 1978. Construct a societal occasion so persuasive that Salameh would show up willingly, reducing his defensive posture because the environment appeared authentically harmless. A birthday gathering received consideration, yet faced dismissal, because Salameh could harbor doubt regarding requests from individuals he failed to know thoroughly. A commercial appointment appeared excessively structured and would permit him to transport protection personnel without societal discomfort. A wedding celebration nonetheless presented distinct mission benefits. Wedding ceremonies in Lebanese plus Palestinian tradition are fellowship occasions where requests circulate via societal connections, where presence is anticipated from anybody with ties to the households participating, and where the festive environment promotes individuals to unwind and experience pleasure. Salameh, considering his societal goals and his marriage to Georgina, would probably show up at a wedding ceremony if requested by an individual he recognized, or if the households participating were distinguished adequately to render presence strategically beneficial. The obstacle involved building a wedding situation so genuine that Salameh would receive the request without doubt. Mossad's Caesarea division assumed mission authority of the preparation. Caesarea focused on killing missions overseas, enlisting agents from select armed divisions and supplying extended periods of supplementary instruction in observation, transmissions, armaments, and the mental preparation demanded to terminate with detached professionalism while existing beneath false personas. The division's supervisor in 1978, whose identity stays restricted, gathered a squad of 12 agents for what would transform into among the most intricate deception missions in intelligence chronicles. The initial obstacle involved generating a believable history. The wedding celebration couldn't merely be declared. It required embedding in Beirut's Palestinian societal connections via associations that persisted months prior to the occasion happening. Mossad recognized a Palestinian household, the Khalils, who held distinction in Beirut's exile fellowship. The patriarch had operated as a prosperous trader prior to 1948, had restored his enterprise in Lebanon, and preserved ties to both the PLO and Lebanese Christian upper classes. The household remained recognized, yet not so distinguished that comprehensive awareness of each household member would prove widespread. Israeli intelligence fabricated the persona of a Khalil offspring, purportedly residing in Paris, who was promised to a Lebanese female from an honorable household. The history proved intricate. The offspring had learned architecture in France, labored for an organization creating business structures, and was coming back to Beirut to marry his betrothed in a ritual that would connect two households with substantial societal reputation. Mossad agents, presenting themselves as household acquaintances, started referencing the approaching wedding ceremony in discussions at coffee houses, at societal occasions, and throughout commercial appointments where Palestinians talked about fellowship updates. The references remained informal, created to establish the wedding ceremony's presence in societal awareness without rendering it appear significant adequately to examine thoroughly. Concurrently, Mossad formed the bride's persona with matching attention. Layla Haddad was purportedly the offspring of a Lebanese Christian household with commercial ventures in Beirut and Cyprus. Her patriarch, the history asserted, had accumulated his wealth, bringing in European merchandise, and preserved acquaintanceships with Palestinians who had obtained comparable prosperity following removal. The Haddad household was built to appear honorable, yet not so select that omission from Lebanese societal listings would prove questionable. Agents generated materials backing the persona: birth documentation, educational files, land titles, and financial institution records that would endure superficial examination by anybody Salame could request to confirm the wedding ceremony's authenticity. The mission schedule stretched across 8 months. Mossad couldn't merely declare a wedding ceremony and anticipate Salame to show up. The promised union required gradual establishment, referenced in discussions, and integrated into Beirut's societal structure until individuals received it as authentic. Agents presenting themselves as the groom's acquaintances from Paris showed up in Beirut months prior to the intended mission, showing up at gatherings, forming commercial ties, and informally referencing their acquaintances approaching marriage. They secured a residence in a stylish district, positioned themselves as prosperous Palestinians with European refinement, and developed associations with individuals in Salame's societal network who could ultimately provide a request to the wedding ceremony. The determination of the location proved essential. It required adequate sophistication to correspond with the household's purported position, yet not so restricted that Salame would experience awkwardness or that protection would prove uncommonly rigid. Mossad determined a coastal estate in Beirut's Ramlat al-Baida district, securing it via intermediaries who asserted to be arranging the wedding ceremony for households residing overseas. The estate provided mission benefits, secluded adequately to regulate visitor entrance, spacious adequately to hold the quantity of visitors demanded for genuineness, and situated close to departure paths that agents could employ following the killing. As the intended date drew near, requests were circulated via societal connections. The requests were produced on costly paper material with decorative writing declaring the marriage of Michel Khalil and Layla Haddad, arranged for Saturday, January 20th, 1979. They were transmitted directly by agents presenting themselves as household acquaintances, guaranteeing that requests contacted individuals in Salame's network who would reference the occasion to him, or who could request him straight if they assumed he would hold interest in showing up. Salame obtained his request via a Lebanese commercial operator who recognized both the purported Khalil household and Salame personally. The commercial operator, who possessed zero awareness that the wedding ceremony was manufactured or that he was being employed by Israeli intelligence, informed Salame regarding the approaching festivity throughout a supper gathering, referencing that the groom's household was considerably distinguished and that the occasion would be filled with multiple Palestinian commanders and Lebanese government officials. Salame demonstrated interest. He appreciated such occasions, and presence would strengthen his position as a Palestinian commander received in Beirut's most refined societal networks. In the period prior to the mission, Mossad completed mission particulars. The killing would happen throughout the wedding gathering following adequate duration had elapsed for Salame to unwind and reduce his defensive posture. Yet, prior to the night concluding and visitors starting to exit, the approach would be toxin delivered via champagne that Salame would consume throughout a salute. The toxin determined was an adjusted variation of ricin, selected for its dependability and for indications that could be confused with heart failure or sensitivity response, supplying agents with essential duration to depart prior to officials establishing that a killing had happened. The agents designated to perform as the bride and groom experienced rigorous preparation. They learned Lebanese wedding ceremony traditions, rehearsed customary movements, and practiced discussions regarding their manufactured relationship and households until the particulars transformed into instinctive. The female agent performing as Layla was a Caesarea professional who commanded fluent Arabic and French, had existed covertly in Arab nations for extended periods, and held the societal refinement demanded to personify a Lebanese female from an honorable household. The male agent performing as Michel was comparably skilled, with comprehensive instruction in preserving disguise beneath pressure and the mental capability to commemorate a manufactured marriage while understanding that within short duration he would engage in terminating an individual. Additional agents took on positions as wedding ceremony visitors, picture takers, performers, and serving personnel. Each possessed particular duties beyond their disguise positions. The picture taker would validate Salame's persona via close examination and transmit signals to additional agents when the objective was situated properly. The serving personnel would control the toxin champagne, guaranteeing it contacted Salame throughout a salute while stopping additional visitors from ingesting it. The performers would generate sound and diversion that would mask any unexpected difficulties, and visitors distributed throughout the assembly would observe Salame's protection personnel, prepared to respond if any of them transformed suspicious. During the night of January 20th, 1979, the estate converted into what seemed to be a genuine Lebanese wedding festivity. The open courtyard was enhanced with white bulbs and botanical arrangements. Surfaces were positioned in customary setup, with a primary surface for the bride and groom's relatives. A musical group performed Arabic melodies combined with Western popular tracks. Serving personnel circulated productively between the cooking area and courtyard, presenting appetizers and distributing wine. The bride dressed in a sophisticated white garment with lace ornamentation, the groom dressed in a fitted outfit. Everything seemed precisely as it ought to appear for a festivity connecting two distinguished households. Visitors started showing up at 7 in the night. The majority were agents or regional associates who had been enlisted without understanding the occasion's genuine intention. Some were actual Lebanese residents who had obtained requests and showed up assuming they were commemorating an actual wedding ceremony. Mossad had determined that combining actual visitors with agents would boost genuineness, generating societal exchanges that couldn't be completely manufactured. The actual visitors supplied unexpected discussions and actions that rendered the occasion experience authentic instead of arranged. Salame showed up at 8:15 with 2 protection personnel. He dressed in a costly outfit and presented himself with the assurance of an individual familiar with societal distinction. The commercial operator who had requested him welcomed him cordially, presenting him to additional visitors and guiding him toward the courtyard where the bride and groom were welcoming new arrivals. Salame offered congratulations to the pair, held Michel, and touched Layla's palm with rehearsed European politeness. He conversed momentarily with Michel regarding Paris and regarding Palestinian fellowship existence in France, exhibiting his refined global awareness. The Mossad agents performing as bride and groom preserved flawless restraint. Layla responded with amusement to Salameh's praise and expressed gratitude for his presence. Michel talked about Palestinian governmental matters with the informal command of an individual whose household held reputation in the fellowship. Nothing in their actions indicated anxiousness or falseness. They had prepared for this occasion for months, practicing until their positions transformed into instinctive and their disguises experienced more genuine than their actual personas. For the following 2 hours, the wedding ceremony advanced with the patterns of any Lebanese festivity. Visitors consumed food, consumed beverages, and interacted. The musical group performed melodies that attracted individuals onto the movement area. Young ones rushed among surfaces while their guardians discussed commercial matters and governmental issues. Salame unwound noticeably, consuming wine and discussing with multiple visitors regarding developments in Lebanon's internal conflict and Palestinian connections with different Lebanese groups. His protection personnel stayed watchful, yet situated themselves at the courtyard's perimeters, monitoring for outside dangers instead of doubting peril from within the festivity itself. The picture taker, a Sayeret Matkal agent transporting an actual Nikon device, circulated through the assembly, recording photographs. He documented the bride and groom, clusters of visitors, and informal instances that would subsequently be eliminated, yet which fulfilled mission intentions in the instance. He moved towards Salame and proposed to capture a picture. Salame consented, arranging himself with the commercial operator who had requested him. The picture taker recorded multiple images validating persona via close examination of facial characteristics and specific markings that Israeli intelligence had recorded from earlier observation. He conveyed a subtle transmission to additional agents. Objective validated. Advance 2 following stage. At 10:30, the groom's patriarch, performed by an agent who had learned the Khalil household chronicle thoroughly, rose to present a salute. He expressed gratitude to visitors for showing up, communicated with feeling regarding his offspring's marriage and the advancement of Palestinian households, regardless of removal, and requested everyone to elevate their containers in festivity. Serving personnel circulated champagne containers to visitors throughout the courtyard. The agent controlling the toxin container guaranteed that Salame obtained a particular container designated with a scarcely noticeable marking on its foundation that separated it from alternatives. Salame elevated his container alongside additional visitors. As the salute advanced, the groom's patriarch communicated regarding optimism for Palestine's destiny, regarding the determination of Palestinian individuals, and regarding the significance of preserving tradition and custom, even during displacement. The statements connected with visitors who had encountered comparable removals and defeats. Salame displayed satisfaction, acknowledging in concurrence with feelings that corresponded with his personal convictions regarding Palestinian nationalism and the campaign for restoration. The salute finished with a customary Arabic prayer. Visitors responded collectively and consumed. Salame ingested the champagne thoroughly, emptying his container as tradition required. The toxin penetrated his bodily system immediately, taken in via the digestive organ covering and commencing its function on his heart and neural structures. The material had been developed to function within 15 to 20 minutes, producing indications that would seem as abrupt heart failure or serious sensitivity response. For the following 12 minutes, nothing appeared incorrect. Salame persisted, interacting, receiving congratulations from additional visitors regarding his personal marriage to Georgina, talking about possible commercial chances with a Lebanese trader, and responding with amusement to humor communicated by the groom. The agents observed him thoroughly while preserving their personal positions, monitoring for the initial indications that the toxin was producing results. At 10:47, Salame stopped during discussion. He positioned his palm on his torso, his countenance transitioning from unwound pleasure to bewilderment. He tried to persist communicating, yet his statements emerged unclear. His complexion whitened observably. He wavered somewhat, extending for a seat to stabilize himself. His protection personnel immediately circulated toward him, acknowledging that something was incorrect, yet not yet comprehending the character of the danger. The commercial operator who had requested Salame inquired if he was satisfactory. Salame tried to answer, yet fell prior to statements emerging. His protection personnel captured him as he descended, reducing him to the surface. Alarm distributed throughout the courtyard as visitors understood something dreadful was occurring. An individual exclaimed for a physician. Females cried out. Young ones started weeping. The musical group ceased performing suddenly. One of the serving personnel, actually a Mossad agent with healthcare instruction, hurried ahead, asserting to be a medical professional. She positioned herself beside Salame, examining his circulation and respiration while seeming to try urgent help. In actuality, she was validating that the toxin was functioning as planned and that Salame was penetrating heart failure. His circulation was feeble and irregular, his respiration shallow and strained. His vision was absent, and his physical form was shaking somewhat. The protection personnel required an individual contact and emergency vehicle. Multiple visitors rushed toward the estate pursuing communication devices. The bride and groom remained unified close to the primary surface, their countenances displaying suitable alarm and worry. Additional visitors assembled around Salame's fallen physical form, some weeping, alternatives requesting in Arabic. The courtyard had converted from festivity into disorder within moments. The agent, presenting herself as a medical professional, persisted her act, delivering fabricated resuscitation while guaranteeing that zero actual healthcare response would preserve Salame's existence. She observed upward at the protection personnel, following 2 minutes, and gestured negatively, suggesting that Salame was failing to answer. One protection personnel started exclaiming in annoyance and sorrow, requiring to understand what had occurred, demanding that Salame had been satisfactory instances prior. At 10:53, precisely 18 minutes following ingesting the toxin champagne, Ali Hassan Salameh expired. His circulation ceased, his respiration finished, and his physical form transformed motionless. The agent examined for essential indications once additional and declared him deceased, her statement consistent, regardless of the affective disorder surrounding her. The protection personnel responded with fury and doubt, extracting armaments and requiring that nobody depart the estate until authorities showed up and established what had terminated their supervisor. The Mossad agents preserved flawless restraint regardless of the emergency. The bride started weeping, her sorrow seeming authentic as she fell into her groom's embrace. Michel supported her, communicating reassuringly, while his vision followed activities throughout the courtyard. Additional agents communicated alarm and bewilderment, presenting inquiries that actual visitors would present, preserving their disguises even as mission conditions transitioned toward possible revelation. Lebanese authorities and emergency vehicles showed up within 12 minutes. The protection personnel clarified what had occurred, characterizing Salame's abrupt fall and expiration. They required an immediate examination, demanding that their supervisor had been killed, although they couldn't clarify how or by whom, considering that the expiration happened at a wedding ceremony among visitors who seemed to possess zero reason. Authorities interrogated observers, acquired declarations from the bride and groom, and inspected the environment for indication of criminal action. The opening healthcare evaluation indicated heart failure or feasible sensitivity response to something Salame had ingested. The authorities gathered nourishment and beverage specimens for examination, incorporating the champagne container Salame had employed, which had been intentionally positioned in proof by the agent who circulated it. The container would subsequently be evaluated, yet the particular material employed would fail to be recognized immediately. And around the duration, forensic medical examiners established that toxin was participating. The wedding gathering would have separated, and the agents would have disappeared. The bride and groom were interrogated thoroughly. They communicated dread that such a catastrophe had happened throughout their festivity, presented complete assistance with the examination, and supplied association details that seemed authentic, yet which would ultimately guide nowhere. They utilized the evening at a lodging establishment, preserving their disguise as a recently married pair affected by the expiration of a distinguished visitor at their wedding ceremony. The subsequent morning, they exited Beirut on a journey to Paris, referencing the requirement to withdraw from the suffering and return to Michel's residence in France. Additional agents withdrew independently across the following 48 hours, departing Lebanon via different paths and employing different materials. Around the duration, Lebanese officials started doubting that Salameh's expiration could have been a refined killing instead of a healthcare crisis. Every Mossad agent participating in the mission had departed the nation. The examination paused rapidly. Medical evaluation validated that Salameh had been toxified, yet recognizing the particular material demonstrated challenging, considering its quick breakdown in the physical form. Observers characterized the wedding ceremony and Salameh's abrupt fall, yet nobody had observed anything questionable. The bride and groom couldn't be situated in Paris. The estate had been secured via intermediaries, whose personas demonstrated manufactured. The requests and wedding ceremony enhancements had been obtained with physical currency, departing zero economic path. Lebanese authorities determined that an intricate killing had happened, yet they couldn't establish who was accountable or how the mission had been completed with such accuracy. Israeli intelligence never formally validated accountability for Salameh's expiration. Administrative representatives answered to inquiries with conventional declarations regarding not discussing intelligence missions. Yet within several days, Israeli publications started documenting that Mossad had ultimately terminated the individual accountable for Munich, characterizing the mission as a work of excellence, of falseness, that exhibited Israeli intelligence's worldwide extension and mission refinement. The communication was evident. Israel could remove its adversaries anywhere, employing approaches so refined that even intricate protection configurations couldn't supply security. For Palestinian armed groups, Salameh's expiration was crushing. He had been a magnetic commander, a mission supervisor with broad knowledge, and a representation of Palestinian defiance to Israeli armed dominance. His killing exhibited that zero Palestinian commander was protected, irrespective of protection measures or whereabouts. The mental effect stretched beyond the defeat of one supervisor. It generated suspicion within Palestinian groups, compromising reliance, and rendering commanders doubtful of societal occasions, fresh associates, and circumstances that could be disguises for Israeli missions. The fabricated wedding ceremony mission transformed into mythical within intelligence fellowships internationally. It exhibited that intricate societal manipulation could surpass material protection actions, that deliberate preparation could generate situations where objectives willingly penetrated termination areas, and that agents with adequate instruction could preserve thorough disguise even throughout missions, as intricate as arranging a complete wedding festivity. Intelligence organizations learned the mission, evaluating its approach and deliberating how comparable methods could be utilized to their personal objectives. Yet the mission additionally presented significant moral inquiries that intelligence experts persist discussing. Was the intricate falseness validated by Salameh's position in militant activities? Did the hazard of terminating innocent visitors validate the approach selected? What mental expenses did agents carry from existing fabricated personas so persuasively that they commemorated fabricated marriages while organizing to terminate? The responses rely somewhat on viewpoint. Israeli administrators perceived the mission as acceptable payback against a militant supervisor who had terminated residents. Palestinian advocates observed it as governmental militant activity that exhibited Israel's readiness to breach any standard, incorporating the protected character of wedding festivities in pursuit of its adversaries. The agents who completed the venture returned to Israel as champions within Mossad's restricted domain. They obtained recognitions, advancements, and acknowledgement from governmental and armed command who comprehended the mission's intricacy and its long-range importance. Yet they additionally transported mental weights that would influence them for extended periods, existing as bride and groom in a fabricated wedding ceremony, commemorating with authentic pleasure while understanding their intention was termination, demanded mental separation that departed enduring results. Intelligence organizations acknowledge that thorough disguise missions produce persona bewilderment, challenge preserving genuine connections, and increased proportions of emotional distress and chemical dependency among agents who utilize prolonged durations occupying fabricated personas. The female agent who performed as Layla Haddad subsequently characterized the knowledge in restricted evaluations. She clarified the unusual characteristic of moving at her fabricated wedding ceremony, trading promises in a ritual that represented nothing, and displaying satisfaction at visitors while monitoring an individual expire from toxin she had assisted delivering. She stressed that instruction had organized her for the mission components, yet not for the effective consequences, the visions where the wedding ceremony transformed genuine, and Salameh's expiration converted into responsibility instead of occupational accomplishment. The mental evaluation observed that she experienced difficulty preserving close connections following returning from the mission, discovering it challenging to rely upon anybody with her actual persona, following utilizing months existing as another individual so persuasively. Ali Hassan Salameh's expiration failed to conclude Palestinian militant activity or settle the Israeli-Palestinian disagreement. Fresh commanders surfaced to substitute him. Hamas plus additional groups persisted, striking Israeli residents and armed objectives. The pattern of aggression that had terminated Salameh's patriarch in 1948 persisted via following generations, generating fresh sacrifices and fresh agents dedicated to payback. Yet the fabricated wedding ceremony mission obtained its immediate goal, removing a significant worth objective who had straight engaged in missions that terminated Israelis, and transmitting a communication that Israeli intelligence would pursue its adversaries with deliberate resolve and refined approaches that rendered security virtually unachievable. The mission's inheritance stretches beyond its immediate prosperity. It positioned a design for societal manipulation in intelligence labor, exhibiting that generating intricate fabricated situations could surpass protection actions that conquered traditional killing approaches. Intelligence organizations internationally learned the mission, integrating its instructions into instruction schedules and mission preparation. The strategy of arranging complete societal occasions to reach objectives transformed into portion of intelligence profession utilized in adjusted configurations to missions against militant commanders, armament distributors, and international intelligence personnel who had discovered to prevent customary observation and straight methods. 45 years subsequently, the fabricated wedding ceremony stays restricted in the majority of mission particulars. The identities of agents participating, the particular approaches employed to build fabricated personas, and the intelligence materials that validate Salameh's presence stay secured. Yet the mission's general features have penetrated intelligence tradition, communicated in instruction programs as a model of mission superiority, and learned by chroniclers pursuing to comprehend how contemporary intelligence organizations execute secret action in unfriendly circumstances. What the mission discloses is awkward for those who favor to assume that intelligence labor adheres to evident moral boundaries. The agents who arranged the fabricated wedding ceremony were not creatures of evil. They were extensively instructed experts assisting a representative state that confronted authentic militant dangers. They assumed their venture was fair, that Salameh merited expiration for his position in terminating Israeli residents, and that their approaches, while non-traditional, were reduced morally troublesome than explosive bombardment or armed invasions that would terminate significantly more individuals. Yet their labor demanded them to mislead innocent visitors, to commemorate a fabricated marriage while organizing termination, and to manipulate shared human traditions like wedding ceremonies for intentions that breached everything such festivities symbolize. The moral uncertainty characterizes contemporary intelligence labor. Agents exist in locations where traditional morality transforms intricate, where state protection validates actions that would be unlawful in alternative situations, and where the apparatus of governmental authority provides authorization to terminate drawing from restricted proof that cannot be communally inspected. Mossad's fabricated wedding ceremony was concurrently an occupational work of excellence and a significant breach of societal standards that secure fellowship festivities from transforming into fighting areas. Both evaluations are accurate, and their pressure discloses something fundamental regarding how states execute secret conflict in pursuit of protection goals that they judge essential. The individual who performed as Michel Khalil, the fabricated groom, never married in his actual existence. In conversations multiple decades subsequently, following his persona was unrestricted after his expiration from malignant growth, household members characterized how the mission had influenced him. He had shown up at his siblings' actual wedding ceremony, extended periods subsequently, yet had experienced difficulty experiencing anything beyond occupational evaluation, evaluating protection weak points, and observing how a mission could be executed instead of encountering the festivities' effective connection. The fabricated wedding ceremony had ingested something within him, substituting genuine ability for pleasure with mission cognition that he could never completely eliminate. His sibling recalled him remaining solitary throughout her gathering, monitoring visitors with the removed countenance of an individual who could never again rely upon that festivities were merely what they seemed to exist as. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.